love and prayers, and it must have worked because here you are. Welcome
Well,
back.
thank you. Thank you so much, Liz. And I'm very happy to be back. Sometimes, one of those things, when you get sick, it doesn't matter what age you are, you get sick. And
Right.
no, no, for our viewers and listeners, no, I didn't have COVID. I just had an infection, which didn't go the way I wanted. And yeah, and it ended, stranding me stranding me, tied me to bed for nearly 3 weeks, and it's a very long time.
That's a long time. It is. Well, I'm happy that you're doing okay and that you're back.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome.
I appreciate, that. I got so many well wishes, and it's nice that you feel like people think of you, and we are close friends, and we kept
Hmm.
in contact. And that sometimes I was just very scarce with my words. Um, it's just one of those things, you have the fever, you take the medicine, and you're just not yourself. You don't want to talk to anybody, but
Right.
that didn't hinder you still to inquire and see that I make it through that, and I totally appreciate that.
Right. Oh, you're more than welcome. Hmm.
Yeah, and a lot of things have happened, and maybe first, I know that Rihanna Taylor is really on your heart, and that you have an opinion there, and I really want you, to give your personal feelings on that.
Yes, Breonna Taylor. First of all, I like to, it's been months, but I'd like to give my condolences again to the family and, friends and everyone. The verdict really shocked me, but then again, I'm not really shocked by it. So it goes to show, what do we tell our children? Is this type of thing fair? Absolutely not. And I really feel like it's not over yet. Just like you said, when we were talking a little bit ago, it's not over yet. There's a possibility that, hopefully, they will be charged. I mean, who can, do something like that and then, and get away with it? It's totally unfair. It's totally unfair. And I know that, her family, accepted the money, but they
I
deserve it.
know, I know it's
They
hard,
deserve
and
that after all that. And to be found guilty. I mean, I have a daughter close to that age, and I can't even imagine. That's
well,
not fair for anyone.
no, we both have, and finding yourself in a situation like that, it's well, first of all, it's just horrible. It's heartbreaking, and it seems to just happen way too often right now.
Yes.
Um, in the United States, and everybody is finger pointing. It's yes, there's police brutality, but there is also the other side where police is doing a very good job. It's hard, and you brought up fairness, and
Mm-hmm.
there let me just do that split to Ruth Bader Ginsburg with just died, and if we go back a little bit in political history, there was a wish for then in the Obama administration to
Yes.
appoint, Supreme Court justice, but we all know did not happen. And now
Right.
suddenly we find ourselves in an accelerated, process um, by people who only 3 years, or yeah, 3.5, 4 years ago said this is not going to happen. And you talked about fair before, and
Mm-hmm.
so I just wanted, to pull the definition of fair, and fair marked by impartiality and honesty. free from self-interest, prejudice, and or favoritism.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I have an 8-year-old son, and you have an 8-year-old granddaughter, and we often speak about those things and fairness and lying, all that, and we're trying to bring them up as, you know, law obedient.
Law-abiding children, citizens.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And
So how do
and
you do that, Eric? How do we do that?
well, I think we are just sticking to our principles of fairness, um, bringing out the good in people, or hoping to do the good thing, and trying to explain certain situations of them, which is not easy right now. You know, they they
Right.
they watch nice news too, and for me, it's incredible that I have an 8-year-old who started forming political opinions
Mm.
with. I mean, we watch the news a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and he sees. I mean, yes, I'm discussing those things with my wife too, but usually we try to keeping out of those discussions, because, you know, we would like to form an opinion. But there he is at 8 years old, forming himself an opinion, and it's very surprising, um, how he takes those opinions, which are mirrored, you know, by not mirrored, but which come, you know, from the different news outlets.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, that guy, he's blind. That guy has, yeah, he didn't get his facts right.
Right.
But he has really a pretty shitty opinion of politicians, which
Right.
is just sad. I
Right. I mean, those were her last words. Please don't appoint anyone until the next presidential election. She said
well,
that to her granddaughter.
unfortunately, fortunately, depending on where you stand, you know, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I see
Um,
that.
it's not going to happen, and it's going to be, you know, the lines are going to harden between, you know, the two parties, I guess, which is very, very sad. But uh, we hope for the best for this country and for us.
Right,
We do have
exactly.
to say to our listenership and so on that we are in California. And I just pulled up, you know, the I mean the elections, 2016 elections, and, you know, only 36.5% of the voters voted for our current administration, and I just wanted to leave it there without
Right.
going into details, and actually admit our guest for today,
All right.
and just let them in, you know, or already like participating in a very uh, well, lively conversation. And Yannis, are you ready here? Yes, you are.
Hi,
So
Yannis.
first we
Liz,
are
hi
going.
I
Eric.
thought you rode your bike in. All right, I like that.
Yeah, I'm gonna ride it this weekend. It's every year, once a year in November. There
Uh-huh.
is this organization, Movember, all around the world, that people ride their motorcycle, dress really sharp, in order to collect funds for men health and prostate cancer. So it's
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
and for you
raising
women
fund.
which don't know about prostates, believe me, no fun. It's an organ you don't have. We have it.
No,
It
but
can be very
yeah,
unpleasant.
it touched 850,000 people in the US, and there is a lot of suicide. So it's something that was created originally in Australia, and now it's all around the world. So usually people gather, but obviously this year you have to ride the solo, but everyone
Mm-hmm.
meets up, etc., and raise money for that cause.
Okay. I wish you the best. That's awesome.
So,
That's
so
nice.
what type of bike will you be riding, and what are you going to do about social distancing?
I'm just gonna dress up. I own a Triumph, a Bobber, which is a one-seater. So just driving around, it seems like it's gonna be a nice weather in New York. So riding in Brooklyn and Manhattan during the day.
Okay.
So you will not be one of those riders that we had now twice already in the Midwest. And
no, we're not gonna do like a Sturgis like they did this year. Last year, November in New York, we were 700 biker escorted by the NYPD. So it was a fun ride. This you have to adapt and you have to be, you know, to look at each other, you know. So it's a responsibility that we have for the community. So.
that is
All right.
That's wonderful. And funnily enough, you're driving a Triumph, which if there would be any French bikes, would probably run it. But I remember my cousins in France. It's a was a very, very popular bike.
Yeah, it's a popular bike. Actually, I find out that it was my dad's first bike as well, first brand. So
yeah. Hello, Anita.
Hey,
Thank you
Anita.
for joining us.
You look lovely.
Thank you. So do you, both of you.
Thank you.
Well, Yannis, okay. I mean, here we are. Very difficult time in general through COVID-19. New York, Manhattan, for people which remember it, say pre-COVID, very lively, you know, congested streets, full underground restaurants thriving, sandwich shop, and now a ghost town.
yeah, I mean, yeah, that's the reality. I mean, the traffic, unfortunately, is back to, I will say, almost normal because people are not taking the mass transportation like they used to be. The subway, you know, people are of taking it, you know, despite they're doing a really good job. I mean, I'm personally using the subway and it's pretty well deep clean every night, etc. But transportation, like there is a lot of car on the street, but as far as the dynamic, obviously, with no convention and no tourists coming to New York and the main city have the same challenges, you feel that there is a different dynamic on the economic, you know.
So you said we spoke a little bit prior about it because there was a whole, how should I say, multitude of mom and pop sandwich shops, or just small coffee and all that, which lived really from the people, which would be, you know, going on a, you know, to work on a day-to-day basis, and they have been totally deprived of their income.
Yeah, I mean, you know, most of the company, the large company, the office, you know, is not back and running. Most of the company have shifted to have remote work, you know, plus, you know, in New York, I don't know in California, but parents had the choice to do 100% remote or 50%. So there is many parents who did remote, so they're working from home, so they don't go back to the office, meaning there is not the bagel and the coffee on the morning. There is not the grab and go lunch, you know, there is not the happy hours at 5 o'clock. So in type of business, you know, from the small hot dog stand on the street, you know, to the business restaurant, to the pub that used to have, you know, at 5 o'clock, you know, people going, you know, between coworker. So the New York Restaurant Alliance just monthly are releasing number, just to give you an idea. In June and July, 80% of the restaurant owner didn't pay the rent, couldn't pay the rent.
Oh, man.
Number in September, the number just came out. So out of a survey of 500 restaurants, 87% didn't pay rent, couldn't pay rent again.
Wow.
So right now, we are in a phase that, you know, we were fortunate that the mayor authorized outside dining, which is going to be until October 31st, but, you know, it's not San Diego, the weather start to be chilly now.
Get cold.
So on Monday, we're gonna be allowed to operate indoor, but only at 25% capacity with 6 feet difference. So obviously that, you know, business-wise, it doesn't make sense. The strategy, however, proved that it's working because we have been below the 1% rate of COVID. You know, it's close to 9,000 tests a day, and we are below 1% of people positive. So the curve have been flat for weeks and months now in New York. And, you know, you can argue if it's the right strategy, if it impact the economy. As you can hear with my French accent, you know, in Europe right now, they are shutting down a second time. Paris just announced it, they're closing at 10. London tonight, they're closing at 10 again, all the pub. So they're gonna, you know, they started really fast and now they're closing. So it is, you know, is it better to, you know, stay safe for a slow, longer period of time? Or was it smart and kind of push to restart and now to shut down again? I think it's gonna be more difficult for a restaurateur who kind of hire everyone, starting to work and try to amount cash flow, and now they have to close again because they are not able to control the curve, and that's unfortunately the reality.
Yeah. Well, I think what many people which are not working in the hospitality or restaurant, I say especially restaurant industry, because there is a difference between your profit margin that you have in a hotel and the profit margin you're having in restaurants. So let's just separate that. However, in nearly everybody's life, either you went a couple of times to a fast food restaurant or to, you know, just middle class establishment or very high class establishment. The actual profit margins are very, very low. And Yannis, when you tell me that there are 80%, you know, of restaurants owners weren't able to pay their lease or rents, you know, that just tells you that the little bit of profit they made has already completely eroded. And going forward, unless really there's going to be a second package, you know, of government aid, they're simply not going to make it.
Yeah, and the reality, I was listening earlier your conversation, you know, there was a conversation for a second package, but now, you know, the politics have shifted their focus. Their main right now is to appoint, you know, a new Supreme Court, you know, and, you know, everyone, you know, is looking at their own belly, I want to say, unfortunately, you know. There is thousands of restaurateurs and, you know, club owner, hotel, etc., who are desperate for this package, you know, to try to survive and to restart the economy when, you know, we will be in a better situation, you know, with vaccine, etc. But right now, all the conversation have stopped, you know, so the Alliance are trying to lobby him, etc. But right now, everyone focus, it's about, you know, who's going to be, you know, and how they're going to be able to appoint a new justice court, which is unfortunately.
Well, yeah, we just were talking about that and how to tell your children how to define what fair or fairness actually means in this particular political climate.
I will even rephrase it, you know, is like, you know, depending on the age of your children, you know, but, you know, for me, it's like when your children is going to grow up and going to be more in the power of voting, etc., and they're going to ask you, you know, what did you do, Dad, you know, during, you know, those, you know, racist issue, you know, Black Lives Matter, you know, during those economic crises, what did you do, you know? And, you know, I know that I'm going to be able to look at myself in the mirror and tell my children, this is the action I took, you know, and unfortunately, when you look what's happening currently in our country, you know, it's concerning, you know, because I don't know what they're going to reply to their kids or grandkids, you know, what were you doing in 2020 with, you know, all the major issue we are facing currently.
Right.
You know, that's the reality as well, you know. What legacy they're gonna leave behind then, and how they're gonna be able to justify. And the list, you know, is long, you know, and not to take any party, but at the end of the day, you try to raise, you know, your kids with the right value of right and wrong. And right now, it's a really a great path that we are taking.
Right. It's not good. You know, it affects everyone, you know, everything that's happening, whether you have children or not, it affects everyone. All the businesses, we all have to, you know, just kind of hope for the best because I don't know, there's not a lot, you know, our hands are tied because if we go back too quick, that wouldn't be good. But then there are so many businesses that are suffering right now, you know, on all levels.
All levels. I mean,
all levels.
You know, there is not one level who hasn't been impacted, you know.
Right.
And unfortunately, you know, what's concerning always is always a major corporation who are, you know, getting out of it with a free card, you know. That's it is not the mom and pop or the cab driver or, you know, the person who have a small shop, you know, our voice, despite we are by the quantity, the #1 employer in the country, at the end of the day, we are not heard because there is not an alliance, a power of lobbyists, because this country works like this, to go to the White House and say, we need to have a check to save our industry, you know?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But how do you start over, you know, being a small business, you know, the restaurant business, how do you start over? And how do you know?
In our company, we took some drastic decision, you know, some area we had preferred to close our establishment because it was making more sense to close for a certain period of time than trying to open and barely make it, you know.
Right.
The best example is in Las Vegas. When there was the previous, you know, financial crisis was a different things in 2008. They tried to open and remain all the hotel open. But just for you to understand, in Las Vegas, under 80% of occupancy, they are losing money. You know, that's the business model, the way it is. And that's why this time you saw it, they were not afraid to shut down completely the hotel because it was making more sense and to save more job on the long term to shut down completely versus trying to survive because you still have to pay, you know, XYZ expenses. So now, and we have done this decision, which one we prefer to close. And despite that, for example, in New York, on Monday, we can reopen at 25%. We're not gonna reopen because we know that unless we can reopen at 50%, it doesn't make sense financially.
Right, exactly. That's what it comes down to, unfortunately.
And you don't want to bring your employee as well, you know, because you start to give them hope, you know, you convince them back, you know, and you start to run the business and you realize the business is not there. So then you have to let them off. So that's a second hit behind the head, which is even worse, you know. So that's unfortunately the situation we are.
Right.
And it is very bleak. I mean, I'm seeing what's happening here, and I was seeing here in San Diego. And Yannis, yes, we are lucky to a certain extent because there are certain parts where the city agreed, you know, to block off the walkways or just make it pedestrian so the restaurants can expand, you know, really to the outside and have, you know, like at least 60-70% of their seating back. It's actually funny that there are a couple of restaurants now that have more seats than they had before, but I can only say good for them. Good for them, and the city has been relatively tolerant in line to sell alcohol outside and so on. But you know, after the military, tourism has been our second largest industry, you know, and here in San Diego. But you know, it's really more the downtown. All the other restaurants which are not located, you know, they're just struggling or closing.
Right, exactly.
And you know, And the impact it has on the population is yet not clear because people are confined at home or
Mm-hmm.
they stay mostly at home. So
Right.
say, you know, that in hopefully 5, 6 months from now, our life goes back to a certain normal. Well, all these restaurants we used to go to, well, only maybe 30% will have survived. So
Correct.
it's going to change the whole social interaction. And
Yeah.
And
I think so too.
it's the soul. I mean, at the end, it's the soul of a neighborhood, right? It's, you know, you go out to your restaurant. And last time I was on the show, I was saying it. You know, it's like
yeah,
you go to, you know, to your taco place. You go to your pub to have your drinks. You know, because they know you, etc. It's a social activities. And then when everything's gonna go back, you're not gonna have them. So you're gonna miss this like neighborhood feel, etc. And right now, you know, it was the restaurateur, the independent were hit the most, you know, but now in New York, we start to see major, you know, hotel like Hilton, like Starwood,
Mm-hmm.
Shire, who are closing completely. So this is like big building with hundreds of rooms that they are shutting down and they are not planning to reopen. It's not like a short period of time. I said, that's it. You know, if
Wow.
we pay the loan, we cannot. And you're talking about the housekeeper, you're talking about,
Right.
you know, so it's hundred of families who are,
Jobs.
exactly.
Mm-hmm. I saw on the news the Lux Hotel in Beverly Hills. Quite a few of those hotels are closing. So you think about the workers, they don't have jobs now. They're not going to have jobs.
yeah. And the thing is,
Yeah.
you know, it's directly tourism and business travel related. So the
Right.
impact that you see in the airline industry, you know, that is just um, it's that people don't travel. Those hotels are not going to be occupied.
Right.
Period.
Exactly.
And then the impact as well. Yes, right now in not traveling, but companies are starting to, obviously, because company look on the long term, they realize like, well, wait a minute, it has been 6 months, my company is still running. Why should I send, one of my team for a 6-hour flight to LA to have an important meeting for 3 hours, pay a flight ticket, an hotel, etc. He has been done through a Zoom call, and we were able to manage it. So I think the impact as well, once things gonna go back to normal, they're gonna make the business travel like we used to know it, not gonna make sense. Or some company gonna say, well, we didn't need it, so we are able to work without anymore. So that's gonna be an impact as well of the room inventory and the average on the airline ticket, because they were making it from the business traveler, not from the tourist, actually.
Right.
Yeah, that is true. Well, I'm going to invite Anita to our conversation. And you've been patiently, you know, sitting there nodding and shaking your head. So it's
All right.
good to have you. And Yannis, you know, you can stay on or get off. Come back later.
Thank you.
I missed something. I missed something he said about prostate. You guys are talking about prostate cancer or what? Is that
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
yeah,
Doing
we did
a-
at the
he
very
has-
beginning. Yeah. Please, Yannis, say about the fundraiser.
Yeah, it's,
Oh, a fundraiser. Oh, okay.
at the beginning, it was the background of me on a motorcycle, and I was explaining Liz and Eric that every end of September there is an association called Movember, where basically all people who ride motorcycle got together all around the world and ride the same day, riding diapers or dress up with tie, bow tie, etc., to raise money for the prostate cancer research, and as well for men's suicide. So sure is going to be this weekend. I'm going to be joining, and so that was a picture of last year. This year I'm going to ride solo because of COVID, and last year in New York we were 700 motorcycle. It was the largest one. The second one was London, but so that's the something I do to raise money this weekend.
Oh,
That's
wow.
awesome, awesome, awesome. You know, I was listening to you and I love how conscious you are just about what's going on right now, today, and how you are, you care about what your kids are going to think about, how you contribute to, you know, this day and time, and that's a good thing. And when it comes to prostate cancer or just prostate issues, period, and or mental illness with men, that's something that men do not pay attention to like they should. So I
Mhm.
applaud you for that. Good for you.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
And I have a quick question. If somebody, you know, some of our listeners, maybe someone would like to send you a donation, is there a way that someone could, if you could leave, if we could put in the notes your address, if someone wanted to send you a donation for your
Sure,
cause?
I can, or they can go to the Gentleman Ride website, the Distinguished Gentleman Ride, but I can certainly leave you a note and so that
Okay,
you can post it.
that's awesome. Okay,
Yeah. Thank you.
Right.
right.
Just
Okay,
putting
well,
that.
I'd like to introduce Anita Lofton, my very good friend, and she is a health advocate. And she's been doing this for quite some time. And I applaud you, Anita, because this is one of those areas that is very much needed now because, you know, a lot of confusion with healthcare insurances. And, you know, I think it's amazing what you're doing.
Thank
So,
you.
could you tell us a little bit about what you do and why did you become a healthcare advocate?
Well, what I do, first of all, before I get started, I want to thank you. Thank you for giving me the platform to speak about what I do, because I can talk about it all day, right? So,
Right, I hear you.
because I do it from my heart more so than I do it to, you know, for a monetary reason.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in healthcare for a long time. It's been,
Mm-hmm.
shoot, I'm dating myself a long time, Liz. You know, that's all I'm going to say.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I started in healthcare sales, and I worked for major healthcare plans, selling to national accounts. And what I did was I actually was putting together benefit packages for large clients like Campbell Soup and Citigroup and that kind of thing, right? So
Okay.
as I started doing what I do, or as I was doing it, I was sick and I didn't know it, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I was getting these headaches and pains on the side of my face. And every time I went to the doctor, they would say, oh, it's an ear, nose, and throat problem. And I was like, okay. So I go back, they look at my ear, it's not there. So my daughter, thank God, who's becoming a doctor now, she's
All right.
she was a massage therapist at the time, and she massaged my head. And when she massaged my head, the pain went away. So I went into my
Oh.
doctor's office. Yes, I went into my doctor's office and I said, it's a neurological problem. She's like, no, it isn't. I said, okay. If I die of an aneurysm, my blood is going to be on your hands. So you should refer me. So needless to say, I was referred. I
Mm-hmm.
go in, you know, MRIs when I was born, they didn't exist, right? So I
Right.
go to the neurologist. He send me for an MRI. A week later, I get a call back that I have a rare diagnosis called Chiari malformation 1,
Oh,
and I
wow.
needed brain surgery, right?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it's luckily I caught it before it went too far. The issue, it can cause some degeneration, but I caught it in time. But that's
Mm-hmm.
when I realized that we need to learn how to advocate for ourselves, and that's when I became an advocate. So,
Right. So what are some of your objectives?
well, my objective is to make sure that everyone understands how to navigate through the system, because before we can advocate for ourselves, we need to understand what we're dealing with, right?
Right.
So we talked about this is kind of a convoluted environment with healthcare, especially in California and for areas that have the Obamacare, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that means if the state has accepted the stipend for Obamacare, that means everybody in the state has to have have to be covered, whether it's on Medi-Cal or, you know, with us in California, it's Cover California, or you're getting health care through your employer, right?
Mm-hmm.
So with that comes confusion, and it comes a deluge of consumers, healthcare consumers that didn't have health care before. So when the first step is understanding your benefits and what you're dealing with, because if you don't understand your benefits, you're totally lost, right? That's the number one. The other thing is choosing a doctor that listens to you now, not after you get sick, because you know what? You want a doctor that when you get sick, that you know that he's going to fight for you like you would fight for yourself, right? So
Right.
I deal with a lot of people that this doctor won't do this, and here now I have cancer, or I'm dealing with this issue. Well, we need to make it happen beforehand, right? To make sure that the doctor hears you, because doctors are people too.
Right.
Doctors are people too. They have cultural issues. They have mental issues, just like we do. So you want to make sure that doctor is someone that can advocate for you. Then once you learn who the doctors are, and then you need to learn the system, how your referrals are done. You need to understand your grievance process. You need to know because every state has a advocacy agency that if you feel that you're not getting the health care that you need from your primary care doctor and your health plan is not doing, you have a resource. And so my objective is to make sure that everyone that I come in contact with understands how to do that, so they won't fall through the black hole. See, I can talk about it all day.
Right. Right.
No,
So,
go ahead, Liz.
no, you go ahead. Go ahead, please.
No, it was just okay. Let's go just a little actual. So we do not know, but we can probably assume that we are going to have another conservative Superior Court judge in the Superior Court within, say, the next 8 weeks. I think that actually when the Superior Court picks up the new term, that's about in 2 weeks, 1 week, 2 weeks, they're going to judge about the legitimacy about Obamacare. Yes, no. I mean, to say it in lame terms. So what would the immediate impact be if the Superior Court decides that Obamacare is illegitimate?
That they decide that Obamacare is legitimate?
Illegitimate. Legitimate, then it's same business like always. But say they strike it down, say it's unconstitutional. What is it about? Is it constitutional or is it unconstitutional?
That is going to be pandemonium, because like I said, there's a lot of I think there's like 22 states or more that's actually taking the funding. So if they say that, then all the people that didn't have health care before, they go back to normal, no health care, right?
Wow.
And then you have people who's getting care, for cancer and, for all type of treatment, GBS.
Right, pre-existing, like we said.
So,
Conditions, all of that stuff, it would be pandemonium, and I can't see that happening at all. The interesting thing, Eric, is I've been asked that question about 5 times over the past 2 days, and for some reason I just can't wrap my head around it, because that would be inhumane.
Yeah,
it would be inhumane.
Yeah. Well, so, inhumane, but the goal of the Conservative Party is to repeal whole Obamacare. So even that you're saying it's inhumane, unfortunately, the circumstances make that could be an outcome.
Yes, and I know that but for every action there's a reaction, right? So I believe And what I understand what Trump is, he's trying to get away from Obamacare, but he has his Trump care policies that he is going to be presenting. And those are policies where there will be different levels. Like there will be some policies that don't cover maternity, or some that will include you pre-existing, some without pre-existing. So I think
abortion, what would happen to abortion?
What would happen to abortion?
No, I'm serious. I mean,
Wow.
let's talk about it. I mean, this is for me a very defined woman's right, you know, to decide over, you know, about her body if she wants to have the baby or not. We know that on the conservative side, you know, or you know, many religions too are supportive of, quote, non-abortion, let me just call it that way, compared to just say, hey, you know what, a woman has the right to decide, period.
Yeah, and that's unfortunately that could happen as far as abortions are concerned. And if that happens and the conservatives decide that they want to get rid of that, you know, and overturn Roe versus Wade, then I'll tell you what's going to happen is that we're going to have a lot of women that are dying in the back room because they're getting behind the scene abortions, right?
Yeah,
Right, exactly.
Yeah, that's we're gonna go back years and years and years.
Years and years. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah, and that's gonna be real sad. And the person that has the money, the rich, you know, the rich woman, they're gonna be the ones that are getting the abortions because they're able to pay the doctors to be having it.
You know, I want to be really cynical right now. So we're just turning back the pages and we're making America great again.
Oh gosh.
I'm still waiting.
I'm sorry, you know, for me it's, and you know, we always try to kind of stay away from these subjects, but unfortunately, you know,
they're making it hard, Eric.
Yeah, no, it's making it
hard. I think what's making it hard is like, you know, for me, I become an American citizen this past January, and I've been in this country for 20 years now.
Oh, wow.
You know, there's many issues that we are not moving forward. We are literally moving backward.
Right.
And that's kind of scary because many years, you know, for some, you know, this, you know, decade, United States was looking as the country to move forward. Right? So many issues, you know, and I travel quite a lot in every part of the world, from Middle East to Asia to Europe, you know, and the way that we are perceived currently, and the way that we are treating some of the issue, you know, obviously the health, as you discussed, you know, I mean, we're going, you know, backward so many years, you know, it's just scary. I mean, right now we are right in the COVID. That's where you need the most of the health support. And after 6 months, we start to see that the people who get out of it were able to survive.
Right.
There is a lot of support they're gonna need because the body got affected so much that they start to realize already those people are gonna need to have some treatment.
Yeah.
So
right.
they be put on the side of the road because past, you know, existing condition. So what to those 100,000 people who have been infected and we have not a proper health support right now?
Right.
It's scary.
Yeah, because COVID is affecting everything, you know, your lungs, your legs. I know a young lady that's a lot younger than me that just got out of from a respiratory in the hospital, respiratory failure. But she's been in the hospital a month. She can't even walk right now. You know, she has to learn how to walk again. She has to learn how to breathe again on her own. So if that's the case, it's affecting a lot of her internal organs, which means that.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, so we need healthcare, and
exactly. Big time. That should be number one.
Number one, and it should be a right, not a privilege.
Right. And we shouldn't have to fight for it, and it shouldn't be, you know, issued out some, but not all. You know, everyone should have healthcare. Everyone should. I just happen to be very fortunate, very blessed that I have very good health care, but the next person, they don't, you know. And we all have to be concerned about the next person.
Yeah.
I do. I'm
No.
concerned.
But there, if I may just cycle back to Yannis and say we're speaking about restaurants and restaurateurs and everything, and these usually are very small enterprises which already struggled, you know, that even if you were the owner, if you could avoid paying for your own healthcare, you would do, and you would not even be in a position to support your employees.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's a very sad fact, you know, and, you know, I've even see it, you know, gosh, I had, you know, up to 40, 50 employees myself, but, you know, myself, but to help them covering their costs, it was more like, oh, you know what, actually, you're more or less on your own. As long as the government allows me as an entrepreneur not to support you for your healthcare costs. And that's a big problem, where the government really should be stepping in and say, hey, you know what? Everybody pays a certain amount out of their paycheck in the big pot, but then everybody can have that. I mean, yes, I know it's a very European concept, and people have that misconception that healthcare is free in Europe. It's not.
Right.
Right.
Everybody pays.
I think, you know, unless you have faced, you know, something serious about a health issue, that people don't realize how important it is, you know. When I moved to this country, the first time back in 93, it was in San Diego actually, I had a bad car accident in Tijuana, and we were 4 people on the car. I was a student, I was covered through my school, and I went to an hospital. I was treated like, you know, really top notch, you know, even me coming back then from France. Back then, my girlfriend, who was, you know, Vietnamese, and the parents didn't have a proper cover insurance. I remember we were in the same car, same accident. We didn't end up to the same hospital. And then that struck me already back then, because the service I got, because I call it a service, it was completely different. The quality of the hospital, the follow-up, the doctor, the number of x-ray I got comparing the number of x-ray she got, for me, it was like already revealing. And I think the gap is increasing since then. That was more than 20 years ago.
And where was that? Where were you?
It was back in San Diego, actually. It was back in 93, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. And not only that, we talk about the health disparity. That's a whole nother conversation. You know,
Right.
You know, it could be class, it could be, you know, it's class, it's gender, and it's you know, race. There's a huge disparity. So when I talk about what I do as an advocate is to teach people how to advocate for themselves, to make sure that they fight for equality. But you have to understand what you're fighting for, and you have to do it in a right way, because our healthcare should be equal, no matter.
Right.
Yeah. So you're right, Yannis. That's a good.
So Anita, how can people contact you? Because I think it's a very, very important issue. So how can they get hold of you, you know, and ask for advice?
Yeah, I have they can reach me on my office phone, and that number is 707-563-5956. And I also have a website. It's the Lorniana Group Services.com. It's kind of in rebuild mode right now, but I'm also an insurance broker, and I sell insurance to small groups, and I'm a Cover California agent, so I kind of do it all. But if I had it my way, I would just advocate all day long. But
I know you would.
Yeah, I would. And you know, Liz, thank you for sending one of your members or colleagues to me. I really enjoyed learning more about GBS and helping them through the system, and you know, so.
Absolutely. I do have another question for you. Do you have any tips during this year's open enrollment?
I do. The one thing I want to say that is so very important is pay attention to your evidence of coverage, right? And your evidence of coverage, even because the first thing that we look at when we get our insurance, the only thing is how much is our deductible and what is our copay and how much we pay for prescription, right? There's so much more than that, you know, because if you get into like a motorcycle accident, Yannis, or you have an issue, Eric, where you're sick and you don't understand, let's say you need a durable medical equipment where you need a CPAP machine or maybe prosthetics, then you need to, there's some insurance plans that don't cover that at all, even though it's medically necessary, right? So I see one of the big things are the CPAP machines. I see people who have the sleep test, they go through the pulmonary testing. They have severe sleep apnea. They need a CPAP machine, but guess what? It's not covered.
It's not covered.
Because it's not a part of their benefit plan, right? So you never know. So go through your benefit package, your benefit plan when you get your ELC, your evidence of coverage. Once you sign up for your health plan, a month later, you should get your handbook. Look through the handbook. I mean, even if you have to consider what's happening in your family, what, you know, maybe cancer running your family, or maybe high blood pressure running your family, or sleep apnea, you know what I mean? Just use that and just think outside the box, because our healthcare system is so convoluted that you get how many minutes? Maybe 8 minutes per visit with your doctor. So know what you want when you want it and fight for yourself. That's the number one thing. The number two thing that I tell everybody is HIPAA is real, right? So if you go to the hospital and you don't have an advanced healthcare directive that says that your wife or your child or your mother can fight for you, they cannot fight for you because of HIPAA. So I'm asking everybody and their family to have an advanced health directive. Sit down and complete it like you would choose an attorney, or you would do a will or a state. Because if you get yourself in a situation where you can't speak for yourself, somebody else will, or someone else can.
So that's basically if you set up your living trust, definitely.
Yeah.
Do it. Do it.
Do it. And that's one of the main things that, you know, I want to say in this conversation.
Well,
right. That's very important.
Anita, I just want to expand a little bit on that, because I'm probably the one of you which is getting now into to a certain age where I can, or will hopefully foreseeable past my 65-year anniversary, and then things change radically.
Yeah.
Because you go from one health system to the other. And I think a lot of people are just not aware that they do have to get additional insurance to find themselves in a cover. I mean, at the same adequate coverage if they had it.
Yes, you're absolutely right, Eric. You turn 65 and boom, things change. Especially, and you're normally eligible for Medicare if you've been in the country or you worked in this system for 10 years or more, right? Or you have a spouse that have done that.
Yeah.
Once you're eligible for Medicare, note this, and people don't understand this, you need to apply for Medicare Part B or Medicare 3 months before or 3 months after you turn 65. Because if you wait after that, your Part B, because Part B is something that you pay for. Part A is the hospital portion. That's given to you. That's free, right? But the Part B is the outpatient portion. And if you sign up for Part B after the eligibility period, each year that you don't sign up for it, your premium goes up 1%, right? So you're right, Eric. It does change to Medicare. And then there's all these different levels. And I'm sorry, am I confusing you guys? I mean, it's a lot, but it's all,
not me, but I want to really, you know, get people to be aware. Eventually, we all turn 65.
Yeah.
you know, us a little faster than other people. But I'm finding in discussion with, you know, just my peers that they're often just not aware of it. You know, they're like, oh, I'm going to take, you know, I'm going to turn 65, Medicare, all peachy. Well, no, it's not.
Yeah, because it used to be just Medicare. Go to a doctor that takes Medicare and we're all good, right? Well, now you have Medicare Advantage, you got Medicare A, Part B, Part C, there's so many different parts that we don't, that, you know, you don't understand. And then when you get to that age, you know, it's overwhelming. So yeah, you're right. And that's probably, I teach that too, you know, and I'm also a Medicare agent. So if you guys, I'll be more than happy to come back on and we can talk about.
Absolutely.
Because the Medicare open enrollment is coming up effective October the 15th. So it's from October the 15th to December the 7th, right? So, and we're also getting ready to have our open enrollment with Obamacare in California. So those are a lot of different things that we need to talk about. So if you guys want me to come back and talk again, I'm more than willing to do it. You see, I talk a lot, and I don't mind.
Absolutely.
Talking about that enrollment, it's still for me, it's one of those fascinating issues, and it's actually totally politics. So obviously we were going to have this overlapping judgment and the enrollment period happening.
Yeah.
So say it goes that one way where Obamacare is going to be struck down. You're enrolled for Obamacare. What are your rights? Are they still any rights then, or is it gone?
I can't imagine that they would just terminate Obamacare or turn it around just like that. I'm sure there's going to be maybe some criteria or guidelines where they grandfather something in, or there's a time frame to do it, because that would be pandemonium. And, you know, I don't think, I can't see them, you know, there's got to be a plan. Okay, they're going to do it, and maybe we're going to do it January 1, 2023, you know, or 2025. I can't see them doing it just arbitrarily. Boom, it's happening. That's not
let me be cynical again. We have more than 200,000 COVID-19 deaths in the US.
Right.
I know.
So,
Unnecessary.
for me, you know, it's hard to let the administration get away, you know, and in my imagination or my opinion, I think that they are totally capable of just doing that. Do the worst case scenario just out of principle, because they can. Because maybe in 4 months from now, they can't. But it seems that they are willing to go down that road.
Yeah, or they will.
You know, that's the impression, you know, that they're giving, and it doesn't matter if you're a Republican or Democrat, the impression is given to both sides that that's what they want to do.
Well, Eric, I can't really elaborate on that. I can just hope and pray that that does not happen, because it would hurt a lot of people. It would definitely hurt a lot of people.
You know, I'm in your camp for sure. It's just, you know, it's so hard sometimes to create awareness.
Yeah.
You know, it's like with Black Lives Matter. You know, there's a certain awareness there, but people are steered in a wrong direction. And
it's
go
going
ahead, Yannis.
It's going back to education. We have to educate people on so many things. You cannot just trust the system. Me, it's like we have to re-educate, you know, the country at stake. You know, there is so many issues that, you know, got diluted because of the system. You know, it's when you start to put the system flat, you know, like from, you know, having the election where you have, you know, the public vote as the higher number, but at the end is not the same president, you know, the full term, you know, of, I mean, there's so many things. If you speak loudly and say, does it make sense? You know, people will like, oh no, it doesn't, you know, why did you arrive to that situation, you know? And you see the reality is like the impact is always the lower class, because again, it all go back to education, and they are the one who don't have access as much as the information, or as and they are the ones suffering at the end, you know, because they don't have the resources or the support to get the right information at the right timing. You know, it's a good movement right now will force people, you know, like just the basic fact of going to vote, you know, if you are 18, you know, and you have the right to vote, you know, but when you listen, so many people are surprised about, oh, I can vote, you know, and so it's all about re-education. You know?
Yeah,
I also think that a lot of people may not have a lot of confidence in the voting system, just what happened in the past. You know, some people may think that it's going to be what they want it to be. You know,
regardless if you go and vote or not.
Yeah, because of what's happened. Because, you know, as we were growing up, you know, it was an honor to be the president, and you know, it was an honor to see people in the White House, and they were role models, right?
Right, exactly.
But we've gotten.
But you're talking about Nixon?
not all of them, Eric. Not all.
Sorry.
It was an illusion, right? It was an illusion, but what we're dealing with today is really scary. You know, it is. It's really, you're like, what is this, right? And it seems so. I mean, everything is just coming out. Everything is so transparent. You guys seen that movie, The Matrix, right? Yeah. Yeah, it's like.
Oh, did I miss something? Is my cable still? Sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, and then, you know, Yannis, you talked about Black Lives Matter, and I've been saying this forever, or for at least the past couple of months, that the only thing that we're talking about is police brutality, right? But systemic racism exists in our country for years, and so Black Lives Matter for financial, Black Lives Matter for healthcare, you know, Black Lives Matter for so many different things that we need to have a conversation about what is going to change, because when it changed for us, it changed for all. You know, it was just like Black Lives Matter, this is happening, the disparity, the health disparity, or other, you know, systematic things, but the things that are affecting us are affecting underserved people in the underserved community, whether they're Black, brown, green, or blue, you know, because it's a richer, poor thing right now. So to see the generation now that are coming together, because we don't have a lot of Black people, the younger generations, they're mulattoes, they're mixed, they're dating each other, right? And their kids are having kids that are, so they're fighting for the whole, their generation. So anyway, I'm kind of getting off the topic of what we're talking about.
No, not at all, not at all. You know, it's like, you know, like I say, we usually, you know, try to, how shall I say, you know, always to leave a positive message, to uplifting and all that. But there comes this moment, you know, where you have to just look at the facts, and these are very troubled times, period. So we are going into the direction that, and you know, Yannis and I were both Europeans, so we have historically, obviously, a different background. But frankly, the way we're going here, that's what happens in the 30s, you know, in Europe, and that was going to fascism. You know, just the disrespect of rule, the disrespect of government, and all that.
Yeah.
And it's you know, it's not a good development. Yes, I'm for a healthy, capitalistic America and philanthropy. You know, there's no other country in the world which has philanthropy. Like, yes, you know, you speak about someone giving you know, like the Belinda and Bill Gates Foundation, you know, I don't know, $35 billion. Believe me, there's no other country where that is even thinkable.
Mm-hmm.
And but now at what cost here, huh?
At what cost then should we be in that situation?
Yes.
Right.
You know, should there be a more lateral distribution, period? You know, just make everyone live a little better.
Yeah.
Right.
But
And also, like for Yannis and the restaurant business, everyone is kind of losing their jobs, different people. How do they get insurance? I mean, are they, you know, at one point they're not going to be able to afford it if that, you know, the restaurant business doesn't, you know, pick up and, you know, so how
I
do you
don't know how
address?
it's in New York. I mean, here in California, we have Medi-Cal.
Medi-Cal.
Okay.
Right.
But in New York, I don't know what type of system they have to support, you know, non-insured.
Right.
Right.
Because it depends on the only reason why we have Medi-Cal for everyone who can qualify for it now
Mm-hmm.
is because we've taken the Obamacare stipend funding, right?
Okay.
We're funded.
Mm-hmm.
So, Giannis, I don't know if New York is funded by Obamacare, but if they are, is there?
Yeah, we do have Obamacare as well.
Yeah, so then anyone that are losing their jobs or losing their benefits should also be able to get Medicaid. It's called Medicaid nationwide. We call it Medi-Cal for whatever reason, but they are eligible to get Medicaid. So that's it.
But the reality as well, and I'm sure you know that, is like, you know, when you don't have proper cover insurance, you're already in a financial situation that you have to make, unfortunately, decision. Do I go to my dentist because my tooth hurt, or do I put, you know, food on the table for my kids, you know?
Right.
You know, the mayor in New York was criticized at the beginning of the crisis of the COVID,
Mm-hmm.
because he didn't close the school quickly. But at the end, after a week, he made a statement. He said, currently there is 700,000 kids that depend of the meal, of the lunch meal from school. You know, overnight, those kids don't have food at home, you know. And, you know, sometimes you just forget you know, like, you know, the minimum wage in this country, you know, now finally we are reaching 15, but in the restaurant industry, when I started back then, it was $2, you know, and then, you know, if you were on the front of the house, a waiter, you have tips, you know, so you could make a decent living. But any line cook, you know, was working on a kitchen, were making like $3-4 an hour, and they were doing 2 jobs, 8-hour shift in one restaurant, running to another place, working 16 hours to have a life that is not even decent, is below the poverty level, you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There is many, you know, families, at least in New York, who are in this situation. They are proud workers. The mom is working, the dad is working,
Mm-hmm.
but because of the entire system between the minimum wage, the cost of the insurance, and the cost of living, then they prefer to put the health, especially, on the back burner and say, you know what, I can manage my tooth. I'm gonna get a Tylenol and I'm gonna be okay. I have a headache, you know, nothing major, you know, is gonna be okay. And then when they reach to the stage that is to go to hospital, and then they diagnose, and then it's way too late because it's much more serious. And that's what we.
Right, exactly. That's
And
happening a
luckily,
lot.
I'm sorry, and luckily with the Obamacare, wherever it is, I know it's in California, now it's New York, one of the guidelines is preventive care is covered at 100%.
Yeah.
Now, a lot of people don't understand that preventive care is covered at 100%. That means you get to go in and get your checkups and, you know, your evaluations as preventive. So, and that's designed to get you well and to keep you well. So,
Right, preventive. Mm-hmm.
yeah, go in and establish yourself with your doctor and do what you got to do to make sure that
Right.
you're taking care of yourself. It's your right, and you should.
Mhm.
Well, on that note, take care of yourself.
Yes.
We will wrap up the show. And Anita, it was a pleasure having you.
Yes. Thank you for coming, Anita. Thank you, Yannis.
Likewise.
Thank you.
Appreciate
For coming
coming
back.
Yes.
And well, hey, let's meet again soon.
Okay, guys.
Yes.
Thank you. Have a good
Okay,
day.
you're welcome. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.
Bye, Yannis.
Bye-bye.
Good luck.
Bye, Anita. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.